Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Chapter 2, Terms, Concepts and Their Use in Sociology. And our topic is peer groups. This is a kind of primary group usually formed between individuals who are either of similar age or who are in common professional group. Peer pressure refers to the social pressure exerted by one's peers on what one ought to do or not. Now let us move to the next point, social stratification. Social stratification refers to the existence of structured inequalities between groups in society in terms of their access to material or symbolic rewards. Thus, the stratification can most simply be defined as structural inequalities between different groupings of people. Often, social stratification is compared to the geological layering of rock in the Earth's surface. Society can be seen as the consisting of strata in a hierarchy, with the more favored at the top and the less privileged near the bottom. Inequality of power and advantage is central for sociology because of the crucial place of stratification in the organization of society. Every aspect of the life of every individual and the household is affected by stratification. Opportunities for health, longevity, security, educational success, fulfillment in work, and political influence are all unequally distributed in systematic ways. Historically, four basic systems of stratification have existed in human societies: slavery, caste, estate, and class. Slavery is an extreme form of inequality in which some individuals are literally owned by others. It has existed sporadically at many times and places. But there are two major examples of a system of slavery: ancient Greece and the Rome, and the southern states of USA in the 18th and 19th centuries. As a formal institution, slavery has gradually been eradicated, but we do continue to have bonded labor, often even of children, as states characterized feudal Europe. We do not enter into detail about the states here, but very briefly touch upon the caste and class as systems of social stratification. We shall be dealing in greater detail with class, caste, gender as basis of social stratification in the book Understanding Society. The next point is caste. In a caste stratification system, an individual's position totally depends on the status attributes ascribed by birth rather than on any which are achieved during the course of one's life. This is not to say that in a class society there is no systematic constraint on the achievement imposed by status attributes such as race and gender. However, status attributes ascribed by birth in a caste society define an individual's position more completely than they do in class society. In traditional India, different castes formed a hierarchy of social precedence. Each position in the caste structure was defined in terms of its purity or pollution relative to others. The underlying belief was that those who are most pure, the Brahmin priestly caste, are superior to all others, and the Panchmas, sometimes called the outcasts, are inferior to all other castes. The traditional system is generally conceptualized in terms of the fourfold varna of Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In reality, there are innumerable occupations based on caste group called jatis. The caste system in India has undergone considerable changes over the years. Endogamy and ritual avoidance of contact with members of so-called lower caste were considered critical for maintaining purity by the so-called upper caste. Changes brought in by urbanization inevitably challenged this. Read well-known sociologist A.R. Desai's observation. Other social consequences of the urbanization in India are commented upon by sociologist A.R. Desai. While change did take place, discrimination was not so easy to do away with as a first person narrative suggests. In the mill, there may be no open discrimination of the kind that existed in the villages, but experience of private interaction tells another story. Even today, acute caste discrimination exists. At the same time, the working of democracy has affected the caste system. Caste as interest group have gained strength. We have also seen discriminated caste asserting their democratic rights in society. Now the next point is class. There have been many attempts to explain class. We mention here very briefly just the central idea of Marx, Weber, and that of the functionalism. In the Marxist theory, social classes are defined by what relation they have to the means of production. Questions could be asked as to whether groups are owners of means of production such as land or factories, or whether they are owners of nothing but their own labor. Weber used the term life chances, which refers to the rewards and advantages afforded by market capacity. Inequality, Weber argued, might be based on economic relations, but it could also be based on prestige or on political power. The functionalist theory of social stratification begins from the general presupposition or belief of functionalism that no society is classless or unstratified. The main functional necessity explains the universal presence of social stratification in requirements faced by a society of placing and motivating individuals in the social structure. Social inequality or stratification is thus an unconsciously evolved device by which societies ensure that the most important positions are deliberately filled by the most qualified persons. Is this true? In a traditional caste system, social hierarchy is fixed, rigid, and transmitted across generations. Modern class system, in contrast, is open and achievement based. In democratic societies, there is nothing to legally stop a person from the most deprived class and caste from reaching the highest position. Such stories of achievement do exist and are source of immense inspiration. Yet, for the most part of the structure of the class system persists. Sociological studies of social mobility, even in Western societies, are far removed from the ideal model of perfect mobility. Sociology has to be sensitive to both the challenges to the caste system as well as the persistence of discrimination. Significantly, those at the lower levels of the system are not just disadvantaged socially but also economically. In rural India, more than half of the scheduled tribes population lives below the poverty line. This proportion is only slightly less for the scheduled caste at about 43% and lesser still for the other backward classes at about 34%. Now let us wind up the session and thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.